said, okay, you can do one sport or you can do 3 sports. So that's more tiring, more expensive, more time consuming. It's a lot of effort. You've got to balance all 3 at once. You were like, yeah, sign me up. I'm going to do all 3. What is it about triathlon that appeals to you?
The thing I love most about triathlon is the community. You know, if you join a tri club, everyone's so welcoming and friendly and supportive, and you never get bored talking to people with common interests and goals. So yeah, and there's always someone to train with. So I guess I'm someone who gets bored easily, so doing 3 sports keeps it interesting.
The variety does help, I guess, as well as having to balance it all. And being in Australia, I remember speaking to Laura Siddle, who does a lot of Ironman triathlon, and she was saying that when she was in Australia, there was just so much community, as you say. Like, you know, there would be clubs at 5 a.m. that are doing everything. Like, you know, you go out, you'd be constantly with people, which does help with morale, but also discipline. And you've got to be there. You've got to go for your ride or you're going to miss the group start and things like that. So is the community in Australia all that it's cracked up to be in terms of triathlon?
Yeah, well, I feel like triathlon's like sort of trending at the moment. Like everyone's signing up for an Ironman or half Ironman or even just a sprint or standard triathlon. Yeah, everyone's doing it at the moment, and especially with all these run clubs starting as well, there's so many groups that you can join. So it definitely helps having everyone around you doing it. It's very motivating.
It's quite funny how you say it, like it's trending at the moment, because it definitely is. If you see on social media, like, goodness me, everyone knows what an Ironman is now, which I guess you probably find quite strange because, like, having a bit of a background in triathlon and then doing it as well to your level just now, you're like, well, this is not new. Like, cool. I mean, there's a lot of pros to it because you get to like run with more people. There's more run clubs, more facilities, but it is kind of funny that I guess you're like, hold on, my sport is now everyone knows what it is and things like that. You don't need to explain it anymore. So what's your background in triathlon? Can you kind of talk me through how you came to love it so much?
Yeah, well, I guess it still feels pretty new to me because I just started doing the half Ironman distance, and I started doing triathlon 3 years ago. So I was a runner first. I started running when I was 8 or 9 years old. I did little athletics. I guess a lot of Aussie kids do that growing up. And then I just kept at it, and I competed at national level in high school in the steeplechase and the 3,000 meters. I was pretty good at the 10K as well. And then I guess at uni, I started doing the longer stuff, so half marathon. And then during COVID, I did a couple of marathons, and then I just sort of kept getting injured from running. It's a very high impact sport. So then I guess I'd always thought about doing a triathlon, but didn't really know where to start because there's so much equipment and there are so many elements to it. And then my partner signed up for a triathlon, and I'm like super competitive with him. So I thought, if you're doing one, well, I'm doing one too. So that's when I did my first one. So April 2021, I did my first triathlon. Yeah, on a really old bike. But yeah, we've come a long way from then.
Well, I was going to mention that because you have a reel on your Instagram that's kind of a picture of you in like a baggy jersey on the bike that you're mentioning there. You know, you just look like, you know, you're doing your first triathlon and you don't really know what you're doing. And then you kind of flip to what you're at now and like the full like time trial setup, full aero tuck, all the kit. And it, you know, it is funny because obviously you're doing it for like dramatic effect in the video. But when you like look back and think, whoa, I have come a long way. Like, that must be really satisfying, especially in 3 years, which is a long time in sport, but equally, you know, it's not actually that long in terms of like lifespan. So, you know, you must feel like, hey, I look pretty good.
Yeah, I guess it's progress is really satisfying to me. Yeah, that bike in 2021, that wasn't even the first bike that I used in my first triathlon. That was I actually really missed that bike. That was my first proper road bike that I
It's
bought.
like, sorry, the beautiful bikes you have and the emotional attachment. I really miss that bike.
Yeah, it was very light, and yeah, it was a Specialized Tarmac SL6, and I mean I broke it by falling off the trainer, but
Oh my gosh, how? The stationary trainer.
yeah, I was listening to a podcast about Christian Blumenfeld, and I guess it was so inspiring that I was standing up riding, and then I might have leaned a little bit too much, and I sort of grabbed the table, and it sort of came down with me, and we all came crashing to the floor. So that was a sad day. But then it became new bike day a couple of days later.
Oh my gosh, what a turn of events.
I'll always have a special place in my heart for that bike.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we understand now the emotional attachment to it. And you mentioned, you were looking at triathlon, like, where do I even start? So I think that's quite a good question. Like, where do you start? If you say are a runner, I guess a lot of people are runners or swimmers and they get into it from there. Where should they start?
Yeah, not everyone comes into triathlon as a cyclist. You're usually a runner or a swimmer, because that's what you do as a kid. But yeah, I guess, I mean, you don't need a super expensive bike to start. Just do a bit of training first. I'd recommend that. And then, I mean, I started with a standard distance triathlon. So that's the 1,500 meter swim, 40K bike and 10K run, which was, I guess, a pretty good place to start. And then that's a good way to see if you like it. So I actually finished that race saying, oh, I'm never doing this again. But then it's because I hadn't done enough bike training. So my legs were cooked for the run. So yeah, I guess make sure you do some key sessions before doing your first one. A few run off the bikes would be a good idea.
Yeah, I feel like if you've not done a huge amount of cycling, it's not going to feel good. Even the position that you're in on the bike, if someone's thinking, okay, I'm going to try this, and you're on a road bike for like the first or second time, it's not going to feel good. You need to get used to it, and your back needs to stretch and things like that. Never mind the other two sports all put together. So yeah, definitely good tips there. And what is your kind of training split at the moment? How do you divide your time? Because you also work full time as well. So what is your life balance looking like on the average week?
So I do 2 sessions a day, in the morning and afternoon. Usually the morning session's either a run or a ride, and the afternoon session is swim or gym. That, I guess that's where my coach comes in. He just programs what he wants me to do in Training Peaks, and then I just get it done. I'm super lucky to have a job where I can work from home. So I work from home 4 days a week, and I guess not having to commute into the office and spend time getting ready and looking nice, that time is the extra time I spend training.
And what is your hourly training looking like? How many hours are we talking? If someone's saying, okay, that's fine, but like, talk me through like specifics. What are you doing?
I guess it changes from week to week. So some weeks I'll be doing sort of 12 to 14 hours. Other weeks is sort of 15 to 17. It depends if a race is coming up. But I guess Saturday's my biggest day. So we do a 4-hour ride. And then I have a couple hours to sort of eat, refuel. And then I have an open water swim session with my tri club in the afternoon. So 3:00 at Balmoral Beach. So that involves some race starts, so sprinting in and out of the water, and then doing lots of different speed work around the buoys. So some easy, moderate and hard efforts. And then Sunday's always long run day. But I guess it's pretty flexible in that I can swap my long ride and long run day depending on when my cycling friends or running friends are doing their sessions. And then Monday and Friday is usually a bit more recovery day because it's around the weekend, which has some big sessions. So Monday is usually a Zwift session on the indoor trainer, and then gym in the evening. And then Tuesday sort of changes. It can be on the trainer or an outdoor ride. And then always has a swim in the evening. And then Wednesday is usually a run interval session. But sometimes I join, there's a local run club that do intervals on a Tuesday morning. And that's a massive group. So I love training with people. So that's one of my favorite sessions to do. And then Thursday is a group ride. So we do local hills. That's with a few people from my tri club. And that's like VO2 max. So it's kind of like a race. I'm the only girl, and it's just a group of like fast men. So my goal is just to get dropped at a later stage each week. So that's quite intense. And then Fridays is usually an easier day, so an easy run usually.
Wow, I love that. I love the training with the guys thing, because I think in sports like cycling, which, I've been cycling for quite a lot of years, and it's got a bit more trendy, like triathlon just now. So a lot more girls do cycle, but for a while it was just me and the boys, and it's like another level of humbling, isn't it? You just are like, okay, I'm just gonna hang on. I just need to hang on. So I love that you integrate that into your training, because it is a great way to get better, I guess, as well, is with people who are stronger and faster than you. But you just need to keep the emotions in check. I certainly find anyway. It's like, okay, we can do this. We can do this.
Yeah. My coach always says it's good to train with people who are a bit stronger and faster, but you just have to keep in mind that everyone has a different, like their standards may be different from yours, and just to try and stay positive and remember why you're doing it and what you're focusing on at that time.
Absolutely. And that sounds like quite a perfect week of training. A-star week of training, and then you also you have your work in between that. Is that like a consistent thing that you can keep up? Or like, obviously, things will come up. Maybe you'll wake up and you'll have a cold, or maybe, something happens, or you have you go out with your friends for dinner, or you have a late night or something, it's your friend's birthday, your mum's birthday, whatever it is. How do you manage that, like training, fitting it all in without kind of freaking out if you miss a session, or are you quite relaxed about it?
I'm someone who prioritizes their training, so I won't let anything get in the way. But sometimes I get held up at work, so I can't make it to the pool that night or the gym, and I'll sort of rearrange and do the gym session the day before if I know I'm going to be in the office and have a lot of work. Or the program's quite flexible, so I'll just tell coach, can I do my gym session tomorrow? Or I'll fit it in somehow, but usually I stick to the plan.
And where does the motivation fit into this? Because there's motivation, but then there's discipline. And I think that a lot of the time we kind of flick to discipline. And of course, like the week that you've described there, it's very disciplined. It's very routine. You know what you're doing. Like you can reel off what day you're doing what and what generally your week looks like. So how do you find that discipline? Like, what is your why? What are you being motivated by? What makes you think, okay, I'm not going to miss a session. I'm not going to sacrifice that. How does that fit in?
Yeah, well, there are definitely days where I don't feel like getting on the trainer, but I know I'll always feel better afterwards. So I'll just start, and as soon as the blood's pumping and the endorphins are flowing, I always feel better afterwards. So I keep my goals in mind, and that definitely helps with the motivation, because I'm someone who really likes progress. So I guess success to me is achieving your goals after you've worked hard on them. Yeah, that's what keeps me going.
And with progress, it's great when it's like linear, it's going up, 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 according to the training that you're putting in, the effort you're putting in. But unfortunately, sport can be quite cruel, and it's not always as simple as that. So do you find that there's kind of ebbs and flows in your performance based on, big training blocks, you're going to get tireder, and then towards the end of the training block, you're probably not putting amazing numbers out because you're really tired. And I guess that's where rest comes into it as well. But how do you kind of measure that progress just throughout the year, throughout the season, with races coming up and things like that?
If you train really hard all the time, then you'll sort of experience burnout, which kind of started to happen to me at the end of last year, which is why I changed coaches. But yeah, I mean, last year I was training from June all the way to the end of the year, didn't really have any races. So it was just this one A race that was in November. And yeah, I achieved my goal in that race, but I started getting burnt out after that because it was just non-stop, like hard training, day in, day out, a lot of solo sessions. Like 80% of my training was like high intensity stuff. So yeah, it's important to have harder weeks and easier weeks, and it'll help you peak at the right time. So that's where my coach comes in with the programming. So I guess after my last race in Cairns, we had a few recovery weeks, and then we'll start the sort of 16-week build into the big race at the end of the year.
A lot of the athletes, they can struggle with rest days because suddenly you've got all this momentum, you've got all the endorphins when you're doing these great sessions. Like, they're hard, but you know, you feel great afterwards, you're taking them off. And then you've got a rest day and you just kind of have to sit there, probably feeling quite rubbish because you're very tired. Your muscles probably hurt a lot. You just sit there with your thoughts. You have to rest, so you can't really go out and do too much. Like, how does that fit in with you? Are you happy to rest? I guess because you're working full time, you know, it does just kind of mean you're not training so much. But how do you prioritize that rest mentally, but also physically?
Yeah, well, I'm one of those really restless people who hates rest days. um,
I got that
yeah.
vibe. I got that.
But yeah, I guess it's rest days are just as important because that's where the body adapts. So just have to keep reminding myself that there's a purpose there, and if my coach puts it in, it must be important. Especially after big races, like I often get sick after a big race because it's such a big toll on the body, and the body's telling you it needs to rest. And then once you get sick, you miss a week of training, if not even more. So I'd rather miss one day than a few weeks.
Funny how the body does that. You know, you keep going until the goal, you have all this momentum, then suddenly you kind of relax a little bit after you've done, you know, whatever event it is, and then suddenly your body relaxes. It allows that tiredness to seep in, and then like, wow, you're out, you're tired, you're sick, and it just kind of happens like that. It's really interesting how it does that, and you're like, no, I've got all this form.
Yeah, and then it's sort of like two steps back. So yeah, I guess one rest day, you're not going to lose fitness having a rest day.
Absolutely. And in terms of nutrition, so, you know, you do a lot of sessions, 2 sessions a day. So you're going to have to eat quite a lot as well for that. What's your kind of diet looking like? How many meals are you having a day? When do you eat? Talk me through.
Oh, I'm constantly hungry. I feel like I'm eating like every hour of the day. Yes, I guess I try and aim for 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So I have protein in every meal. Breakfast usually is oats, and then I'll add some protein powder in there, and like nuts and seeds and honey and berries, and a coffee. And then I'll have a mid-morning snack because I'm usually hungry maybe an hour and a half after that. So I'll have some protein yogurt, and then I'll add chia seeds and like walnuts and almonds. And then I make a matcha latte. So Trafika have like a matcha powder that I really like. Make my own matcha latte. And then lunch is usually either a sandwich or a rice bowl, and I'll add either tuna or chicken or eggs for some protein, or it's like leftover dinner. And then afternoon snack, usually an apple and a couple of protein bowls, which I also make. And then if I have, for an evening session, I'll have a banana pre-training. And then dinner can be, it sort of changes sometimes, like pasta or chicken, or we eat quite a bit of salmon. Yeah, just everything. Sometimes we do meal prepping. It definitely helps with like time management, especially when you're working, so you don't have to cook every night. And that way, you can make sure you're getting the right macros as well.
So it sounds quite full on because obviously, you know, these are all proper meals, and you've got, like, you know, for example, your afternoon snack, your protein bowls, which you have to make. You know, it takes a lot of time to do all of these things, plus rest and sleep and keep all of that kind of planned out. And, you know, let's be practical, like laundry, you know, things like that, they don't just happen. And how do you fit all of that in? Like, what time do you kind of go to sleep at? Do you prioritize sleep and the hours of sleep that you need, or is there somewhere that you're kind of cutting off, sacrificing?
I usually go to bed around 9:30, because that's I'm usually falling asleep by then anyway. I'm so tired at that point. And if I'm getting up, especially for a ride, we're getting up at 5 a.m. anyway. Sometimes even earlier, depends where we're meeting the group. So yeah, I try and prioritize sleep because that really helps the body to recover. And also, I'm not the best sleeper. It takes me a while to fall asleep. Sometimes, usually on Saturdays, which is my biggest training day, I have no trouble falling asleep. But yeah, other nights, I think too much, or there's always something. Like, I'm a really light sleeper, so it has to be completely silent. Definitely prioritize sleep and nutrition, and strength and mobility. But yeah, trying to fit everything in, usually on the weekends, is, I guess, what I sacrifice. Probably social life. I don't really have much social life at the moment. Yeah, the sport takes a lot of time.
Did you expect to get so into triathlon when you first did it 3 years ago, or was this kind of just taking you by surprise?
I didn't expect it to be this much of a sort of life changer. Like it really takes over your life. But I was actually saying the other day, like, what did I used to do before I started this? Like, what did I do with my time? It definitely makes you very productive and good at time management, because there's just so many things to get done.
Because you kind of mentioned that you had a bit of burnout last year due to a lot of high training, but I guess, it's just you do have a lot of downtime as well. And you've obviously changed coaches, and I imagine then changed like training sessions, and you're split in that way. But have you been almost like scared to go back to that place? Or how have you like mitigated any symptoms of burnout this time round?
Yeah, so I guess after having big races, it's important to take a recovery week. My current coach he he also sets a good example, because he's also a really good athlete and has 2 kids and has a job as well. So he knows that life gets in the way at times. So you have to periodize the training.
It's all a balance, isn't it? And then I wanted to also ask you about strength training, because you kind of mentioned that that was such an important part of your training as well, which I think people could probably overlook. You obviously do your running, your cycling, and your swimming. I forgot the third one. And the strength part and mobility part are such crucial parts, preventing injury, building strength, and also like form and general like fitness and strength as well. So what do you do in the gym that really like, have you seen a massive impact of doing this strength work in your performance in cardio?
Yeah, well, I actually love going to the gym. I guess typically triathletes sort of don't like that part of the training, but yeah, I love it. Um, Definitely focus on the big muscle groups, so like the glutes, quads, and hammies for the bike and the run legs, and the lats for the swimming. It I feel like it's helped with my performance and efficiency during races, but also for injury prevention. I also focus on the calves and all the muscles around the feet. Like all my injuries have been foot related, so trying to keep on top of all those exercises is important to prevent the injuries from coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And with training, we talk about the big muscle groups, but also a big muscle group is your brain. Training your brain, mental training of whether it's pre-race nerves, whether it's motivation, discipline. You can literally carry on a massive list of different things that you need to train your brain for. Is that something that you have kind of put work into, or have you taken quite naturally to this side of training and performing, and also just like the pressure, I guess, as well?
I definitely perform better when I put less pressure on myself. There have been times where I've put a bit too much pressure on myself, and then I get super nervous, and then you can't eat breakfast the morning of the race when you're that nervous, and I psych myself out, and then you just don't end up doing as well. So I guess keeping in mind that still pretty new to this distance, and need to be patient, and every race is a learning opportunity. And I also use, I guess, visualization quite a lot, especially because in this sport there's so many different things happening, and when you, especially with transitions, that's where you can lose time or gain time. So in my first race, I came out of the water in 8th place, and then in T1, I managed to go to 2nd place somehow. So I practiced my transitions, and at Cairns, I was sort of, when we were dropping all our stuff at transition, I was just like staring at my stuff. Probably looked a little bit weird, but I was just visualizing the process. So like, come in, drop the cap and goggles, and then wetsuit, and then helmet on, turn bike computer on, grab the bike, run out, there's the exit, run over the line, pass the line, right foot over into the shoe, and then mount, and then just go. It's sort of ran over it in my head quite a few times, and then it managed to help.
It's so crazy, isn't it? You visualize it and you think, oh, am I being crazy? But no, it like that's the power of your brain if you combat that. It's amazing.
Because I guess it's, in a way, it's practicing the process, even though you're not physically doing it.
So that was the first transition. What about the second transition? What's your visualization? I loved how you talked me through that there. Tell me the second one.
The second one isn't as complicated because I leave my cycling shoes in the pedals on my bike, so it's kind of just dismount, and then you run in, find your spot with your stuff, and then you rack the bike, and then it's just socks on, shoes on, grab your stuff, and I sort of grab everything in my hat, and then while I'm running out, I'll shove the gels down my top, and then put the hat on and put the race belt on, all while running, and then start my watch. And transition 2 is not as complicated.
I feel like transition 1, getting a wetsuit off, is that not just absolutely the worst nightmare ever?
Yeah, it is. Especially because my wetsuit has these ridges on the forearms, which help with propulsion, but it's hard to get it off the arms, especially when you have a watch on as well. So trying to shove it off, that can be tricky.
Yeah, because you've got that, and then you also, like, cycling shoes, I guess they're kind of easy to put on, but like trainers for running, you have to lace them up. Socks as well, like that must be so annoying, like putting your sock on if you're kind of all like damp and sweaty and like in a bit of a panic. But I guess that's where you kind of, your visualization is, you keep calm, you like, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing. That is the power of it.
Yeah, and I actually practice putting socks and shoes on. I'll get my partner to time me, and I'll say, I can do that faster. Just practice sock, shoe, go. And I have elastic laces and a toggle on my shoes, so I don't have to tie the laces.
She knows. I actually love that you time yourself doing that. I mean, that's so true though. It's like, what's the point of like doing all of this, say, running training and not actually practicing putting your socks on, like, and losing however long on that? Like, it is significant if you're going to go for like that tiny little like extra 1% in your running, but you're not going to practice that transition. Is that quite a normal thing? I feel like that's quite obvious to do, but do quite a lot of people actually miss that?
But sometimes you sort of focus too much on the swim, bike, and run, and then, yeah, as I said, you can lose time in transition. I guess the one I practice the most is mounting and dismounting. So I used to practice that in my garage.
All the secrets are coming out now. I love it. And how have you seen the role of social media and your Instagram account within your triathlon journey?
Yeah, well, I guess at the start, I just used it to document my journey when I was a beginner. And then when reels sort of started becoming a big thing, I saw a few, I think I saw a reel where someone was posting their splits and paces and times. I found that really interesting, comparing the different legs and comparing with my paces and times. I thought, I'm going to do that for my next race. And then I did it for a couple of races, and those reels actually did really well, and people are interested in that stuff. So yeah, and then I got approached by a few companies that started sponsoring me. So I'm super lucky to have a sponsor for kit and bike parts and nutrition, because they really like my videos.
Yeah, exactly. When you utilize the presence on social media, it can really lead to these opportunities. But needless to say, triathlon is not a cheap sport. Like, equipment aside, you did a reel about the breakdown of all of your costs for, like, at one triathlon, and I think it was like $2,000 or something. It's a lot. Like, it's not an insignificant amount. So is that something you're kind of just happy to invest, or is like, how do you, I guess it's your hobby, so it's what you like to do, but it is a bit of a barrier for some people, I imagine, especially if they're not actually that good or not sure if they like it or not.
Yeah, it's so expensive. And in that video was only about that race as well. It didn't even include like all the training gear and all the kit and everything. Well, I guess I'm lucky to get kit given to me, and nutrition and the bike stuff, but it all adds up. Like, even just like the bike maintenance is quite a lot. So servicing the bike, and I went the other week to try to get a new bottom bracket put on, and then they said, oh, you need a new cassette and a chain, so that was almost $600 just to put a bottom bracket on. So yeah, it all adds up. And then I guess with all the training, you end up eating a lot because you're always hungry. So there's all the food. Yeah, it's a lot. But I guess sometimes I think, if I didn't do this, I'd have this much money. But then like, oh, what would I do with myself?
It just comes back to that. Yeah, it's like, what would I do with all this money? What would I do with all this time? It's like, well, this is a better alternative. So I love that you mentioned the bike thing. I went to the bike shop with my bike the other week, and I was like, just look at the brakes. Do not look at my chain. Do not look at my cassette. I know they probably need replaced, but it's not for now. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
just like, don't tell me. I know, it's fine. It's just one of those painful moments. It's like, I'm paying how much for that? Like, it's not even that fun, is it?
Every little thing adds up. Even like my heart rate monitor stopped working the other day, so I had to buy a new one.
Are you a Wahoo or a Garmin? What's your preferred company?
I'm a Garmin girl. I guess it will connect. I use a Garmin watch, so I guess it connects well with that and with Swift. And I've used Garmin before, but my partner uses Polar, the armband. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're all pretty similar, but it does come down to personal preference. But I'm with you on the Garmin thing. Do enjoy a bit of Garmin. And getting quite deep, but like, what does success look like for you? What do you think, in your vision of life in general, what does that look like for you?
Well, success to me is doing what you love for as long as you can. So I guess I heard the other day, like, the aim of the game is to stay in the game. So the aim of staying fit is to stay fit, or the aim of marriage is to stay married. Yeah, I guess because we love it so much, we want to be doing it for as long as we can. And I'm someone who's obsessed with improvement, so continually progressing and getting better and getting faster. That's success to me. So when I'm working really hard on a goal for a long time, and then when you achieve the goal, that's really satisfying for me.
I love that. With goals, looking to the future, do you have any more races coming up? Big goals in 2024? Looking beyond, what do you see on the horizon?
Well, I actually have a Sydney Harbour 10K this Sunday. Not an A race, more like a training race, because I had the flu a couple of weeks ago, so still getting my fitness back. But yeah, as in terms of A races, I've got the Taupo World Champs in December, so mid-December. So yeah, working towards that.
All in for that. Amazing. Great. Well, if someone wants to follow you online and keep up to date with, all of your races, and obviously this big race in December as well, where should they go?
Yes, so on Instagram, my handle is Hannah Banana, so that's HANA banana _try.
Amazing. I will link that below as well so people can check that out. And thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on and chatting me through all things triathlon, your journey in the sport, and just how passionate you are about it. I think it's great to talk to someone who's just so passionate about it, and the progress that you want to make as well. It's very motivating.
Yeah, thanks for having me.